What's up, everybody? Welcome to Haberman and Middlecoff. I'm Guy. That's John. This is our YouTube channel and our podcast. Wherever you're listening, what are you doing over there? Oh, you're not alone, John.
I got a rat dog.
I can't tell where the front, where the back is from here, but that's Lolly hanging out as well. If you listen to the podcast, great, 5 stars, and share it with your friends, your enemies. If you're watching the podcast, fantastic. When you hit that like button, that makes you a sponsor. The algorithm kicks it off to people. And subscribe to the channel. Hit that little ding button as well. We are brought to you by our friends at Tito's. Tito's handmade vodka, John. I have a Tito's toast I'd like to share today. Do you have one?
Fire away.
Well, I had one earlier. It was to Bob Melvin, who looks good in a Giants uni, John. Our boy, Bo Mel. Spent a lot of time talking to Bo Mel over the years. But I've got to change my toast. My toast, we don't usually tell you what time of day we're doing the show, but today it's 4:07 p.m. Pacific time. And my toast today is to all the people who DM me. My phone started blowing up. I was sitting at lunch, started getting all these DMs. What is going on? And they all said, like, are you okay? Where are you? What is going on? Turned out I'd set the live stream for like noon. And people were just here hanging out on YouTube, waiting for us to start. Where are we? I got several health checks today. So thanks to everybody that understood it was mistimed. It was a 4 o'clock start with the wrong start time on it. So here we are. So
Where'd you eat lunch?
Jimmy V's. Remember Jimmy? I went and saw my buddy Carter, who works at Stanford. It's the Stanford.
Yeah.
You know? You know what I'm talking about? You probably ate there when you were scouting.
Yeah. Still there, kind of in the basketball court.
Still there. Right there attached to the football offices. Andrew Luck came right out and walked by wearing a backpack, hopped on a bicycle with a kitty, like a little kitty seat on the back, and rode off.
Today?
Yeah.
How'd he look?
Looked good.
Isn't that where Lacob plays basketball?
Lacob's, yep. Lacob's name is on the menu. He's got like some special menu items that are on there. So
I think his pickup game starts like 6:30 a.m. or something.
Mm-hmm. Then he swings by there and gets a smoothie, I think is how it goes.
Yeah, I remember running into the Olympic psychologist. Yeah, you never know who you're going to run into.
Never know.
you never know. McCaffrey.
Yep.
Lacob.
That's right. So Tito's ham. You got a toast today, or
I got to give him credit to go on the road and to win 2 games in Philly when the team had been dominant at home. And I've not watched much Diamondback baseball. That dude, Keigel, or whoever they're bringing out in the 7th or 8th, it was fucking, I mean, he's like nastier than Mariano Rivera. I'm not saying he's a better player, but I'm saying right now with that guy's, he's unhittable.
All these guys are throwing pitches that are just like, it starts over here, it goes back over here, it comes back over here. It's crazy.
I don't know what is going on, but there is something really powerful when you interview like one of the stars of the little engine that isn't a Bryce Harper or a Trey Turner. And the guy just goes, I can't believe it. I'm going to the World Series. There's like a little kid element to I am going to the World Series. Even though this guy literally just looked like Mariano Rivera, you just can't concept. Like he's like, I'm speechless. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Now, it's not ratings-wise. I don't know if Rangers D-backs is exactly Dodgers Yankees.
Not Fox's favorite choice, probably. Yeah.
No, I saw they destroyed the NBA last night, though.
What game preceded? What was on before the Warriors?
Nuggets Lakers.
Oh yeah, Nuggets Lakers. I really wanted the Phillies to win for the sole. I didn't want the World Series to be played every game in a dome. I didn't want a full dome. The Phillies crowd. I don't know if did you happen to see? I just texted it to you. The video of like the local iHeart radio station in Philly when did man on the street interviews outside of the stadium last night, and it is so brutal. Like truly a 12-year-old kid is like, Trey Turner fucking sucks. Get him the fuck out of here. Like that shit. Trade everybody. Nick Castellanos, get him out of here. This is unacceptable. Like that's the reaction coming out of the stadium yesterday. Pretty incredible. 2 days.
In fairness, that Keigel guy who was throwing pitches I've never seen before went right after Turner and Bryce Harper back-to-back enormous outs. I mean, that's $600 million worth of hitters.
How about when they showed the one pitcher earlier in the game and they're like, we go down to Matt Weiner for more. And Matt's like, well, guys, at every level, the Diamondbacks put this guy in big spots. And then they like show the AAA championship game as if like that prepared him for this moment, you know? And he passed every test with flying colors. Like, okay.
The best part about baseball strategy, especially in an elimination game, but I think Bochy will be like this from the first pitch, game one, is who was calling it? Was it Smoltz or whoever was in the booth was like, when Musgrave has it, he's mowing you down, but when he doesn't, holy moly, the balls are like bouncing off the dirt before the guy goes like a batter, they yank him out. It's one of those you're all in. It's like an NBA. You give you a couple 3-point shots, you miss them, you're coming right back to the bench.
Yeah.
In baseball, they go right to the pen. It's like, we'll give you these 2 hitters, but if you ain't gonna throw a strike by like the 4th pitch, I might yank you before you even finish the batter. That's what I love about there's something special about the baseball playoffs, the pace of a baseball game, because the lead up to every pitch.
Totally. And that's where it's like, you don't have to speed the game up in the postseason because the drama is unlike anything. And I think it was Smoltz that said at one point the Diamondbacks bunted a runner to second. It was either Smoltz or Darling. That game was on. Oh, it must have been Darling. That game was not on Fox. That game was on Turner. That was Brian Anderson. And Ron Darling goes, it's funny. The playoffs, it looks like a totally different game. Like, you don't see anyone get bunted to second during the regular season. He's like, and then the playoffs come and they play a different sport. I'm like, yeah, that's.
Farhan just puked in his mouth thinking about a bunt moving a guy over.
Was that before or after he signed his contract extension?
Yeah, it's good to
I
know
think
Bob.
Okay with Bob. Did you hear Bob? Did you hear anything what Bob said?
I saw some clips, but I do think we learned a great lesson, and we've learned this lesson over and over now, really our entire lives, but it's been at the forefront since the access we have to social media and stuff.
Yeah.
Any public company, any team, don't believe a fucking word they say when there are rumors like, they're kind of friends, but things are getting weird. And then they come out like, Bob Melvin is our manager. We love the guy. And then 2 weeks later, the dude isn't just on another team in the same division. Like, it's just
with no compensation.
Their GM came out like a week ago or 2 weeks ago and specifically, like, publicly said,
yeah, they just put out a statement.
Friends.
I remember
we just get lied to constantly as a fan of sports.
I remember somebody saying at the time, like, so 24 hours have passed since AJ Preller says Bob Melvin's coming back, and Bob Melvin hasn't said a word. Pretty suspicious. That was a pretty poorly kept secret, wasn't it? I'll tell you
why even come out with a statement? I never understand that in sports. I just don't get
know.
It.
Some sort of weird leverage thing. But you didn't get compensation, so I don't. I'll tell you the one thing from Bob I loved, because he talked about, like, some years you got to rely more on analytics. Other years you got to adjust. You got to dial it back. One thing I heard Papa say was that it's not that Bob didn't like the analytics in San Diego. He didn't think their analytics were as good as the analytics Billy and David Forrest and Farhan were giving him in Oakland, which is an interesting, not everyone's got different ways, but I'll tell you my favorite part of the press conference, because this is like, there's a new fucking sheriff in town, and I'm not here to just like, hey, is everybody you guys all like me? You guys good? They said, Bob, you normally wear number 6 because your hero, Steve Garvey, wore number 6. Did you see this?
No.
But there's a player, Casey Schmidt, wears number 6. What number are you going to wear? And Bob goes, he looks at his back. He goes, what's on my back right now? What'd they give me? Farhan looks, he goes, 6. Bob goes, I guess I'm 6. No, like, well, I'll talk to Casey. We'll see, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, Casey's got it. We'll have a conversation. But not like, we'll have a conversation and I'll give it to him. Like, general gets the good tent, basically.
Well, I thought it was pretty. Casey, who? Like, what? This is fucking not. This isn't Bryce Harper or Aaron Judge here. Like, I'm sorry. Besides Logan Webb, no one gives a shit about any of these guys' feelings on that team.
I thought it was pretty cool. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, Buster Posey's not here, and I'm not taking 28.
Was he there actually though? Like today?
No. Yeah, Buster's been around. Yeah, Buster's around. Bob.
I saw Kawakami tweeting he moved back. I mean, is this guy like the assistant GM sneaky right now?
Yeah. So that was the other thing I liked about Bob, and then we'll get to Brock Purdy. Bob said he goes, I never talked to Buster ever. When Buster was a player and I was a manager, we never talked. He's like, you know what? And I like that. Buster wasn't there to like hang out and meet people. Buster had a job to do. And that's what professional baseball.
Was Bob a catcher?
Bob was a catcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catcher, Bob. To me, like, vote, obviously Bochy, 6-0 eliminations game. Boom. Like, catchers just play a different sport than everybody else who just is worried about how many they have enough seeds. And Lucy, do they have enough Lucy.com/ham? in their pocket,
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. Like, because I think Bob looks around. Like, I love a manager that gets pissed off at the modern game, but also knows the modern game.
I also like, and listen, we need to get back to this because fans like this, and the NBA has lost their way on this. They like it when players don't like each other. When everyone's friends, it's not great for business. And the NFL, clearly guys are friendlier now. It's just communication, tight end university. It still doesn't feel buddy-buddy during the game.
You can't.
And buddy-buddy during the operation. Yeah, it's just, I'm still trying to hit you. Yeah, it's like, Miles, we're buddies. So it's just, that happens sometimes in practice. Like, hey, we're not going that hard. It does not happen in the games, and you have to maintain that. And I still, it gets my juices flowing when you get a clip online and you see like 1983. It's like just an all-out brawl, and you're like, God, this looks violent.
Bochy and Flannery, John. Remember that clip? I'm with you. And it's why, like, there's got to be this happy medium between you're not allowed to throw at hitters, but what comes out of, like, guys getting thrown at is like the core of what people want in a sport, which is fucking, like, we hate each other. Like, that's what college football has, right? It's, like, real animosity.
When you say Nolan Ryan and Ventura's fight is one of the most legendary clips in baseball history.
Robin would call it a fight. Nolan would just call it
an ass kicking.
All right, John.
Kind of like the Vikings gave Purdy's head.
God, the hit. Somebody, Florio put the clip out of Brock getting crushed trying to go over the top on a QB sneak. Kyle Shanahan revealed on Wednesday that Brock Purdy's in the concussion protocol, did not start feeling symptoms until they were on the plane. Asked when it happened, Shanahan said, quote, in the game, end quote. But then later would acknowledge that, yes, it probably happened on one of the quarterback sneaks. Adam Schefter, despite the fact that Brock is feeling better on Wednesday than he did on Tuesday, Schefter tweeted this on Wednesday afternoon. Brock Purdy's now unlikely to play Sunday against the Bengals based on this trend. No NFL player placed into the concussion protocol this season has played the same week. The last player to be in concussion protocol who played the same week was 2022 when Kenny Pickett had a concussion in week 6 and was cleared to play in week 7.
Tua, I would imagine if we went back and looked, would also qualify, except they didn't say he got a concussion. And I think that this falls under the NFL has a new quote unquote unwritten rule mandate of like, you don't get to have a concussion and play that same week. We can't have you getting concussed and then getting concussed again.
Yeah.
I do think that Tua visual last year was kind of a game changer that the NFL wants no part of. If you get multiple concussions during the season spread out, nothing you can do. But I think that it's basically been told once you go in the protocol, you're sitting out a week. And I don't know. I think we're lined up for the Sam Darnold experience.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to add, I don't think they consider this, but they definitely don't want it to happen in any game because every game is highly rated. This game is the big CBS afternoon game on Sunday. This is Nance and Romo. So,
yeah.
You can't have Brock Purdy slumping around on the field.
No, and
because by the way, when would you play Sunday? The soonest he'd get cleared at this point is Thursday, right?
And this is the hard part when you don't know a guy has been concussed. It happened with Tua last year in the second half of the Green Bay Packers. I think it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve game. I forget which exactly holiday it was on. It's one of the worst performances you've ever seen. And then it turned out he had a concussion. And you're like, well, I feel kind of bad, like talking shit about his performance. Let's face it. You were thinking it. I was thinking it. Troy Aikman was saying it. Brock Purdy was playing really well. Really, really well. And after he got that hit on that play, Scott Raber just sent me the screenshot of a tweet. 1 of 6, 2 picks. I mean, that's like, there's a difference between defending him and like, that's just a fact. He got a concussion on that play. It's not even disputable. Just watch. He gets fucking rocked. And I said it at the time. The pick, and I had a buddy text me in the NFL, might be on the Niners, that said, I would lean saying that's on Juwan Jennings. My takeaway is Juwan was not even in the same universe. And Purdy, even when he had been throwing guys open, it was in the vicinity.
Yeah.
That pass to me was closer to no man's land than any of his passes when there were other defenders in the way. And it just makes you wonder. The last play, I defended that, and I still do, concussed or not concussed. He's just trying to make something happen. But it makes you wonder. And listen, if this is the toughest part about football, it's such a bang play, especially that. Like, to me, if he's isolated, like if he had been scrambling, I think he gets yanked out of the game or something.
And I think there's a flag also if it's an isolated play.
100%. But on these tush pushes, every play is essentially a tush push in the sense of you can't really see what's going on. The tush push is the most you can't see shit. Even on the Purdy play, you can't really see him. You have no clue what happens. And if he doesn't come up weird, no one knows. So you just keeps on playing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame the independent doctor for not noticing that one.
Hard to see.
When you see it, though, and for those
when
of
you see it's very, very obvious.
Posted like the roof cam, basically. It's really a major hit. It's a really scary hit. And, every time that happens, you go, we could play the clip of Sirianni saying, nobody can do it like we can do it. Part of it is Jalen Hurts.
His quarterback's kind of getting injured.
His quarterback does get hurt. Yeah. And did you say this to me or somebody else said this to me? Like, it's a matter of Kelsey, your center could get hurt on that play too.
One of the guards. I mean, it could happen to any of these players.
One thing you say about Hurts, it feels like when they run the play, Hurts is never like exposed on top of the pile the way that Brock was. Hurts seems to get a little lower, but whatever. I mean, it's why it's tough because that is the easiest way to get 6 inches. But it really, couldn't you get 6 inches with a guy who's more used to being in that position? I don't think.
Could you do the tush push then with Kyle Juszczyk, you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, Kyle, I don't know.
You want me to get concussion?
No, but this is what I would say. Like first of all, Kyle's neck is strong. And I think Kyle, ball carriers just in that. I don't think Brock looks totally comfortable in those spots. Part of it is just a body mass standpoint. I don't know if you think he does. I don't think he does.
Not. He does not. Jimmy did. Brady did. Hurts does. Who's kind of curtailed and gotten away from this after he dislocated a knee was the Chiefs. Once something weird happens, that's a scary play. I mean, you are very, very dependent on that individual, and that's just a lot of body mass, a lot of power, right? Just because you're not going 90 miles an hour at each other, if I get 2 semi trucks and they both go, and I put them 3 inches away from each other, and then I both have them press the gas, still a lot of power. And that's what's happening on that play.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you're trying to find a seam to kind of jolt through as other people are jolting at you. So I'm with you. 100% no comfort from Brock Purdy. And 2, listen, it's random. Neither of these has been his fault, right? The one, Dwelly or whatever, blocking Hassan Reddick, freak deal. Now this, but he's 2 injuries now. I mean, he's going to miss a game.
In a season's worth of games, yeah.
So it's just, this is also to me, I don't want to say a referendum, but this is a big moment for Kyle. This is the guy, I mean, one of the most polarizing trades in the history of the league, just in terms of everyone having an opinion, not necessarily the impact of the trade happened, was Trey Lance getting traded to Dallas Cowboys. And he did it for a reason, because he wanted this guy to be his backup quarterback. And I've said it forever, and I truly believe it to my core. He liked this guy the moment they signed him. It was a done deal as long as Sam just could walk straight and chew gum. But now we get to see it. And I always say when everyone's like, well, we're bound to see the backup quarterbacks, I hate that mindset, because then it's like other teams don't have that mindset. But for whatever reason, the 49ers, they always play multiple quarterbacks. Always. Always. It's why it's hard to envision them with a quote-unquote franchise quarterback. Like these other teams with franchise quarterbacks, like Josh Allen just plays. Mahomes just plays. Lamar just plays. Like,
Lamar's been hurt. Lamar's been hurt quite a bit.
I know, but still he plays way more than he doesn't play.
Yeah. He plays more than Niner quarterbacks play.
Yeah. Herbert's probably a better example than Lamar. Just always plays. Even Joe Burrow, it's like even when he gets injured, he finds a way to get back on the field for the game.
Right. And
for the Niners now, I mean, if you had to bet, because I think it's very fair to assume that Sam Darnold plays, if you had to put the over-under on Sam Darnold starts this year, if I put it at 1.5, wouldn't you take the over?
Yeah, I would. And now it helps that they have the bye coming after the Cincinnati game. If they didn't have the bye after the Cincinnati game, that would be part of the conversation right now, right? Is how many games is he going to miss? The fact that he's already better October 25th than he was October 24th makes you think that 2 weeks from now he'll be okay enough to play. But you know,
Do you think the league would allow it if in 2 days, like, he's passing the protocol? Or if they change the protocol where it's so hard?
Yeah, it feels like maybe they've changed the protocol. Now, Kyle said, like, hey, if he's cleared, he didn't say it this way, but basically what he said, I don't care if he doesn't practice. If he's cleared, he's going to start. He doesn't need
Kyle's wired like it's 1981, and Tom Landry and Parcells and Buddy Ryan. Like, Kyle would play if you got concussed yesterday, and this is his football mindset. He'd play tomorrow, right? That's just the way he is with football. He's an old soul, and Sean Payton, Andy, Belichick. They are very numb to this all. You just become very numb to it. You just do, because they've seen carted off, shattered legs, shattered arms. I could never get numb to it, just because I always went to the mindset of like, well, we're fucked without that guy. Not that you understand people are getting injured. They're just numb to it all.
Do you think it has to do with the fact that you were making $50,000 and they're making, at the time? Do you think like financial security has to do with it?
No, I think there's a level of the longer you do something, there are things in that business that you are completely unfazed by.
Yeah.
Just completely. Like, if you get to anyone in any industry that has, construction, I've seen it first, the constant delays, the people running construction projects are just ready to argue. Like, they know it's coming. If you're not used to it, it's just like, what is going on? Yeah,
this is unacceptable.
That's a bad example. Right. Yeah, it's just like, what are you going to say?
Actually, sir, it's very acceptable.
This is what happens.
You must accept it.
That's a bad example, but I just think you get numb to things in any industry you're in over time that you are completely unfazed by. And unfazed is the wrong word. Obviously, if certain players go down, it impacts you like emotionally in your mood. But like, you just get used to just kind of moving on. Jeff Schwartz always says, like, move the drill, right? Because the guy's getting carted off.
Yeah.
And that's where that is not true. It's like, well, there are, depending on the team, some teams have 2 guys, some teams have 10 guys. If Trent Williams goes down, it's carted off the field in August, the practice is ending, right? Now, if the 4th-string left tackle goes down, practice is not only not ending, you might not even move the drill. Like, get this guy out of here and let's go. Yeah, keep your mindset.
Moving,
focused, guys. Stay focused. Keep it working. We got another hour and a half left. Come on, get a sip right now. Get a water break.
There's an open spot. There's an open spot. Next man up is a cliche for a reason, right? Because it really is how they operate. Kyle said, let's talk about Darnold. Kyle said today, I think the way he put it was basically, he's never been more comfortable with a player that he hasn't coached in a game than he is with Sam Darnold. He's great in the meetings. He comes ready in practice. He was great in camp. Loves him. And as somebody, I got to tell you, John, I feel a little like we talked a lot about this guy and we wondered, would we see him? And I was very intrigued in the preseason. And I got to tell you, the more I watch Brock, the more I do wonder. I doubt that Sam Darnold sees it as well as Brock, quote unquote, sees it. Because I think Brock sees it really well. But he does other things well. So this is, make no mistake. What was the quote the other day from Greg Olson about PJ Walker? What did he say about him? He said, a good game here is worth 5 years in the league for PJ Walker. Well, this is a big moment in Sam Darnold's career on Sunday if it goes like it's trending, which is he starts for the Niners.
I'll say this. Let's use Deshaun Watson as an example. He's got 2 guys who have been defending him now for 3 or 4 years, which feels to me, I don't know if you see Quincy Avery and Brady Quinn getting into it.
Did I see Quincy Avery and Brady Quinn get into it, John?
And I often think, like, if you're going to die on a hill, like if you're Dak Prescott's quarterback coach or Kirk Cousins, I could see going online and yapping back at people and defending that, right? You feel great about the guy and you think, like, this guy's way better than any of you realize, right? and no one can ever talk about any of that off the field. I always think it's kind of weird to die on the Deshaun Watson hill. Yeah. It's clearly weird. And like, bro, it's like, he's like, that's a low hanging fruit joke. No, it's a real joke. He tried to get a handy from every fucking chick that gave massages in Texas. Like, I'm sorry. No one looks at your player the same way ever again. Like, that's weird, bro. Like, I'm sorry. So yeah, Brady Quinn was taking a shot because he should, because that happened. And there's no one is ever forgetting that. I'm sorry, buddy. But like when Carson Palmer's brother, Jordan, I would say is a big defender of Sam, right? Loves that guy. Has been, he feels like he's very, very close with Sam and Josh. Well, he doesn't have to defend Josh that often. Josh is a star player, is one of the stalwarts of the league in terms of marketing and more famous guys in the league. Even when he's up and down, like no one's totally shitting on Josh because the next game he can throw 4 or 5 touchdowns. If you are coming to Sam's defense, and I've heard him do this, right? He goes, well, look who he's played with. Look who's coached him. Give him an opportunity. Give him this. And he has this now. That's what we said about the reason the guy that he Wally pipped. It wasn't even a Wally pip. He just passed, right? It's like, how does it get any better? Get one of the better play callers. You get, even with Debo, broken shoulder, had no problem waving yesterday to the crowd at Oracle or Chase. But Debo's out. Who cares? You still got Ayuk, who's a $100 million receiver. Kittle's one of the best tight ends of his generation. Christian McCaffrey is a superstar. Juwan Jennings is, wait till you see his contract in a couple years. Someone, who's desperate for a receiver gives him
it'll be more than
Kendrick
Bourne. Who haven't seen Kendrick Bourne in a while.
I think he's making plays for Bill.
He did make a play last night. You're right, he did.
So there are no excuses with this team of let's see it. And I'm not going to like stamp, like I'm expecting 300 plus yards and a win, but I am positively intrigued. And I would expect, as I was told when Robert Saleh interviewed for the Jets and told them they were going to keep Sam Darnold, his selling point was the key to this offense. And this is why we complained last week. You can't run it more than you throw it or have that mindset 24/7, 365 when you're losing, what Kyle does, is our pass to run ratio leans run. And then the passes, 25 to 30 attempts max. 15 of those are easy. Even if the guy's in his face, you can just throw it away. It's not trouble throws. It's really 10 throws, give or take, a game that you really got to decipher and do. Where if you play for Andy, it's like 80% of those throws are pressure packed, right? Or you watch the Bills and how Josh plays. It's not layup throws or layup plays. This is. So it is a massive moment for this guy. I think it's a big moment for Kyle too, because he does well, looks well. Told you, motherfucker, so. Shut up.
You just made me think, John. Got me a little riled up, but also made me think, there was an alternative universe where Trey Lance is starting for the 49ers this week to try and with their backs against the wall, right?
I don't think that universe has existed since March 15th, though.
Since they acquired Sam.
If he was healthy or...
Well, I guess maybe the better way to put it, you're right. But there's also just, this was the conversation, right, throughout training camp. Is what if this moment arrives, who's more ready for it? And if Sam can't do it now with this team, then he can't do it, right?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have Debo. He's got plenty more. And
the rest of the league, though, viewed the other guy as a third string. No one was willing to make him their backup quarterback, right? The entire NFL, after being drafted third, no one was willing to trade a pick to make him their backup quarterback. And a backup quarterback in this league is clearly worth a 4th-round pick, right? Every team in the league, if I told you, I give you a backup quarterback that you could win a game with, every GM in the league, from the best quarterbacks to the shittiest quarterbacks, give you a 4th-round pick without hesitation. And they clearly God, didn't see this one coming. They admitted it. The league admitted it. So it's like there's like 2 separate conversations because the league valued this guy as not a backup, a third stringer. And then Sam was just polarizing. People just, I think, argue, is he any good?
Yeah, some people argue that it's not a question, that he's just not any good, right?
Kyle
Shanahan feels differently.
Clearly.
And Kyle, this is kind of Kyle's wheelhouse, right?
I didn't watch the press conference. I think that's the one thing with Purdy, and I would say Sam too, he is not afraid to say pretty bold things. Like, that's a pretty bold thing to say.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coached. I mean, how long has the guy been fucking coaching in the NFL as a coordinator / head coach? I mean,
he likes him as much as he's liked a guy that hasn't actually played in a game for him.
But he's had a lot of those players over the years.
Jalen Hurd.
I'm just saying, like, either in training camp or early in the season before the guy gets to play.
Every quarterback does play for him. Every guy in the roster eventually gets onto the field.
So he's saying, I actually didn't have that much faith in CJ and Nick Mullins.
Maybe he loved CJ until he played, right? Now we've got CJ with hindsight being 2020. He might change that opinion on Darnold if Darnold throws 3 picks against the Bengals, who, by the way,
he'll change it.
We can save Bengals stuff for tomorrow, but scored had 2 awesome drives against Seattle, and then didn't score another touchdown 2 weeks ago. But
that was an ugly game.
It was an ugly game. But Sam, anytime
that's another elephant in the room. Did you see Deshaun's out? They're getting PJ Walker. I mean, they could easily win at home. So all of a sudden, you fuck up this. Sam Darnold throws 3 picks. All of a sudden, we look up. Niners are in second place. That would be bananas, wouldn't it?
Niners are in second place. You go into the bye. You've lost 3 straight. Darnold ain't that guy. And Purdy, you're waiting to find out, is he going to come back out of this concussion protocol? Here's the thing, man.
Life comes in fast.
Brock didn't get a concussion with the Niners at 7-0. Brock got a concussion coming off 2 losses. So I thought Brock played well. I did a quick video on Wednesday morning, John. SportsCenter NFL Live had this like Brock's first 5 games, Brock's last 2 games stats side by side. But it's really stupid because when you look at the stats, his Vikings game is much closer to the first 5 games he played than it is the Browns game. Like, the Browns numbers were so bad, 44% completions, 4.5 yards per attempt, that it pulls down the Vikings numbers. But the Vikings numbers from a completion percentage and from a yards per attempt was like 9. Completion percentage
was he like 19 to 24? I mean, it was good.
So now 5 minutes left in the game, he throws 2 picks, but like statistically, it was closer to the first 5 games than it was the Browns game. But my point is, the Niners are 0-2. He's got a concussion. Here comes Sam Darnold. So I don't want to jump too far ahead of ourselves. It'd be a good problem for them to have. I think the worst thing is Sam doesn't play well. They lose to the Bengals. And the easiest thing is Sam plays fine and they win, but no one's talking about Sam.
They would take that right now, right?
100%.
Sam's just
doesn't matter how
win the game.
Sam can. If you told him Sam is 9-25 with 4 picks, but they win the game, take it.
Yeah,
you got to get to the bye 6-2. You feel really good, all things considered. But there's just the second you get hurt, and it happened already once, and Trey could not walk through that door, right? With Jimmy. Jimmy was gone. Trey could not walk through that door. If Darnold walks through that door, we'll see. We'll see what
you're saying, and does well.
And does well. Then
here's the thing with the Niners. I was just thinking about listening to you talk. If you just compare them to the Eagles, I think internally the Eagle is an intense environment, right? It's just the pressure, how he's just intense. He's the boss. You know, all coaches are kind of intense, but when your GM is also kind of maniacal in a good way. I mean, he's obviously really good at his job, but it's an intense office environment. Like, it's just tense. I've been there. I know people there. And it's clearly reaps a lot of positive rewards. I think the Niners, Kyle's intense, but like I said, most coaches are kind of on tilt during the season, whether you're winning, losing. It's an intense sport. But their GM and just Jed, it's just kind of normal other than that. John is going for jogs with his assistant GMs. Just probably just have a cup of coffee with a fan. They're just very friendly. But the things around player-wise that happen are just constantly bananas with this team. I mean, bananas. You can't. It's not that weird of a story for a guy to get concussion symptoms after a game. Happens all the time. You see it. I'd say once every other week in the NFL, guys like experience some symptoms. It's happened a lot. Maybe not once every other week, but it's minimum happened 5-6 times, I would say, this year. So that's not that weird. But it is weird given the next guy, how they got to the next guy, the comments he's already making about the next guy. For as good as Purdy's been, he definitely ain't on scholarship. Then if this guy is good and fucking Kyle actually loved him way before he ever loved Purdy, what happens? Only a 1-year contract. You just see how things could just kind of grow in weirdness. In a positive, you can be winning and things can stay weird. The Niners have lived through that. Hell, going back to Harbaugh, I would say this generation of the Jed York ownership, when the teams have been good, have lived in weird football while being successful, which is very abnormal because most teams that kind of live in that world typically underachieve, don't have winning records, and then it just falls apart. Somehow the 49ers kind of thrive in football chaos. And I mean, we'll get into what Kyle said about Steve Wilkes. It's just not normal. Like I don't think, for example, the Eagles couldn't live like this football wise. Like the Sam Darnold, that quote,
Why not?
and then what he said about Wilkes. I just think it would just get so intense.
Because they're
And I'm not saying Mayoko and Barrows ask about it, but then it's just a different environment. It just is.
I don't know if Sirianni would handle it well.
Yeah, I'm saying regardless, even if it was Doug, a more normal, even keel guy, I just think it's just a little more aggressive. A guy, when I was there, 2 reporters got in a fist fight in front of Asante Samuel's locker, and he cheered them on. I mean, it's just kind of different world back there.
Do you remember what
these guys all go to dinner?
You remember what they're arguing about?
I don't. I don't. But a fist fight might have been strong. Maybe no one connected, but it got violent, and they had to be
in the locker room.
Yeah.
And Asante Samuel was rooting it on.
It was either Asante's locker or Jason Peters' locker. I mean, it was like a famous player.
Yeah.
It was one of those scrums, on like a Wednesday.
Yeah. Somebody's elbow.
Yeah, maybe like one of those. And they already kind of were probably enemies for a couple years. Mayoko and Barrows ain't fighting.
This is a good point today. This is a good point here, John, on the stream from Lee. Path to victory, 45 touches for McCaffrey, burnt out by the bye week. Think about that, right? If McCaffrey played every snap in a game in which he was not practicing every week in practice, and Kyle said he came out of it just fine. And I was trying to think like what the equivalent of that is. And the only thing I was thinking was I was in the car with Alyssa today and everything was fine today. But, occasionally, I don't know if you have this experience, but she will drive close to the car in front of her. And if I say anything, like maybe just back it up car link, it's almost like, oh yeah, watch this. Like we get closer. And it feels like that was what Kyle did last week. Like, yeah.
I like driving. I'll be honest. I like driving by myself. I do not like driving with a significant other in the passenger seat, getting lectured, or definitely being in the other seat. Goes for mothers, goes for fans. I like driving and ideally by myself.
Yeah. Well, Alyssa doesn't understand how I can listen to Sirius XM and have a podcast in an AirPod at the same time in the car. Other people don't like that, but whatever. Anyway, so we'll see what McCaffrey does.
You just go one podcast here?
I go one podcast here and then, radio, whatever that means. Commercial break, turn it up, don't like the topic, whatever. I don't know. Multiple sources. Brian Boucher, John, on the stream says $5. So any chance that hit affected his interceptions? Are you firmly, yes, definitely he was a concussed interceptor and he's only thrown one pick?
I'm just saying, I think it's fair to acknowledge that it's
the first throw.
It wasn't like his other games. And I'd say the same thing for Tua against the Green Bay Packers last year in the holidays. If you're playing quarterback with a concussion, especially I think both guys very similar in terms of anticipation, lobbing some balls up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my, the processing of your brain, like
also not big players, right? Like the guard got pushed into him. He lost vision, still let it go. Wasn't close. Matt, $5. FB, is that fullback? Is that what that means? And Mason, especially with a depleted O-line, why use the quarterback? Eagles O-line is stacked. He's talking about the quarterbacks.
Yeah, he probably means Jews.
Yeah.
I have no problem.
I wouldn't put Mason in this game if he was my last running back.
I wouldn't mind going even O lineman. I think the Browns did that at the end of the game when they beat the Colts. I think they have a formation. I had the TV kind of turned down, so I don't know if it's like a backup D tackle or a backup guard. They throw him at fullback. It's like it was 4th and 1. You know, that was how they scored their touchdown after they had fucked up the first 3 from the 1 yard line. And it's just like everyone knows what's coming. Like this ain't gonna be some play action to the tackle here or tight end. This is we're coming right up the gut. You know it's coming. It's coming. Yeah. So I don't think the Raiders still covered that.
You know what I found out? I didn't know this. I think he said it in the post game. You know how we were talking the other day about how John, if you're worried about Lolly moving, I don't think you have anything to be concerned about. we got a pulse over there.
She's tired. There's been a lot of people in and out of the house for a couple of weeks. She's used to quiet and napping throughout the day.
The Washington ASU game the other night, college football. Washington picked 6th on 4th down. Turns out one of the reasons ASU didn't kick the field goal to go up would have been 10-6. They're up 7-6, pick 6, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it was left in the 4th, lose the game. They didn't have enough offensive linemen for the field goal team. That's why they didn't kick the field goal.
What's worse, that or putting 8 men on defense and just letting the clock run out to the 2-minute warning?
Not reading an 8-man defense, being tricked by an 8-man defense. Yeah,
8. I mean, is that a lock first down if you have 8 men on defense?
I mean, it better be. Actually, we don't have any plays for 8 men. I don't know who to block.
Kyle's like, haven't had a chance to scheme this one up, guys. Let's come to the sideline.
I got something cooked up. Don't you worry. So there's a Brock Purdy take. There's a Sam Darnold take. We had a lot. I feel like we talked so much about Sam. I got so much Sam Darnold takes built up to get back to. But Matt Mayoko asked Kyle Shanahan about the touchdown at the end of the first half. 0 blitz, Mooney Ward 1-on-1. And you said immediately after the game you didn't hate it. And the more I thought about it, the more I was on your side. Like, Mooney Ward's one of the top paid corners in the league. You can trust him to go 1-on-1. He's got an interception in his hands. Who cares? Now, the counter would be, hey, 16 seconds left. They're in their own territory. We don't need to do it. Like, just safety. Just let's protect ourselves. This is what Kyle Shanahan said about it.
Would you agree to rookie wide receiver different? I would question it if it's Justin Jefferson. I'd be like, that's pretty unfair.
I would agree.
Easily beat anybody.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Ultimately, where I fall though is I still don't like it, and the reason I don't like it is shit happens, and there's no reason not to give yourself the safety, literally the safety of somebody else back there. Just
what did USC give Jordan last year? Was a couple $1 million? It was a substantial amount of money, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I know he was promised a lot of money. What he got, hard to say.
Yeah.
But had to be. Yeah, I mean, he was the Biletnikoff Award winner and wasn't like necessarily looking to leave Pitt, even though he did go in the portal and then decided to go to SC. But, yeah. All right, here is Kyle Shanahan on the play at the end of the first half against the Vikings Monday night.
Yeah, I think he knows. You guys, I think, talk to him tomorrow. He knows he messed up on that call. I have no problem with 0 blitzes, especially when people need a lot of yards. If you need to get 20 yards to kick a field goal, I have no problem with the 0 blitz. But I do when there's 16 seconds left, and that's where he lost track. There was no necessary need for that just because of the time. I have no problem with the call. But I have no problem with that play call, but when it's that time, you can't do that. It's not an option.
Peyton Manning said that Kirk Cousins told
him. There you
go.
The rest of that doesn't matter.
With that play call, but when it's that time, you can't do that. It's not.
Go back to the beginning here.
He knows. You guys, I think, talk to him tomorrow. He knows he messed up on that call. I have no problem with 0 blitzes.
That's where you beep. Here comes the bus. God, that was. Maybe they have just a very transparent relationship, but I didn't expect to hear that from Kyle.
I think there's a balance here. As someone who was critical of like why these public companies and teams have to just lie to you when they know there's going to be a breakup, like Bob Melvin's not coming back. You do not need to put out a statement. And then you clearly have conversations behind closed doors that you don't need to tell the fans / the media in a press conference. like every coach talks to their assistant coaches about like, we got to do this better. Yeah, I fucked up there. Or the head coach saying, I screwed up there. I shouldn't have told you to do this. I don't need a breakdown of that. And coaches don't give you that. That's what this one feels like. It could have just been, to me, the coach speak on this one. And I've always appreciated his candor in terms of like, that to me is too much. Like that's now I don't respect. Think this guy knows what he's doing? As someone DM me today, they're like, do you understand last year when Steve Wilkes was running the defense, the Panthers offensively and defensively were not good. And then Steve Wilkes gets the head coaching job. He gives the coordinator job to another guy. So he's just the head coach. And then they played better.
I got the same DM.
To me,
I
so
did not
Kyle,
know that.
like, Kyle,
I mean, you knew it.
I think less of Steve Wilkes. I don't trust Steve Wilkes before this. And now that I know that like you're having these conversations, I don't even think you totally do. To have a comment, he wasn't. What were the exact words? The time? He kind of unsure about the time.
Lost track of the time.
He's unsure about the time. He's sitting right there. It's fucking
Knows you guys, I think
30 seconds left.
Yeah, that part, John, was like, wait, he's been a head coach. If nothing else, being a coordinator after being a head coach, understanding clock time management.
Everyone knows the time that there's.
he knows you guys, I think,
left.
talk to him tomorrow. He knows he messed up on that call.
He knows. I think you guys are going to talk to him tomorrow. In other words, like, well, tomorrow he's going to be real sorry. But you guys will hear that from him tomorrow.
I have no problem with zero blitzes.
Nobody thought you did.
Especially when people need a lot of yards. You know, if you need to get 20 yards to kick a field goal, I have no problem with the zero blitz. But I do when there's 16 seconds left. And that's where he lost track. There was no necessary need for that just because of the time. I have no problem with the call. But I mean, I have no problem with that play call, but when it's that time, you can't do that. It's not an option.
This is from the coordinator who got told in a Super Bowl by his head coach, whatever you got to do, dog. Right? I don't know.
I look at this guy differently than I already did, and I already questioned, like, is this going to be smooth? What was Tomlin's thing to McVay? Anyone can get an average player to play good, but being a good coach is about getting your top players to play elite all the time.
He just used great. It's like anybody can get a C player to play like a B player, but getting your B player to play, getting your A player to play like an A plus player, like that's the impressive part.
All the time, right?
All
consistently.
Yeah.
And your $125 million man has 2.5 sacks the last like 10 games. And since the 6 you've been coaching him, has looked nowhere near like the other top guys that we watch all these games.
And by the way, he made a comment himself the other day, like, yeah, you know, we're usually a 4-man pressure team, but this year it's different.
Yeah, this ain't going well. And I know statistically, I saw some people tweeting, you know, before this game where they ranked it. We're just watching the game, and it clearly looks different. And the last year, everyone knew we had a star here. D'Amico Ryans like a rocket ship. I would say this is trending. Comments like this, you can see one and done on the table.
I appreciate the transparency and the candor as well, John, but I wonder if Kyle would regret it if we showed him that clip now, saying that the way he said it. Because it just puts Steve Wilkes in a bad spot. He just put him in. Maybe he doesn't care, but I do think he cares. I don't think he wants to embarrass Steve Wilkes. He's got no, Kyle is not a messages through the media guy. So, of course, that's not.
I don't think he's embarrassing him either. I just think that he's just.
But that is embarrassing.
Weird way, like he doesn't care. I know. I just don't think
you'd be a little embarrassed if you're Steve Wilkes and you're like, you just told everybody I lost track of time.
When you replayed that,
yeah,
the way he kind of re-listened to it.
Okay.
He doesn't say Steve Wilkes.
He knows he messed up on that call. I have no problem with zero blitzes, especially when people need a lot of yards. You know, if you need to get 20 yards to kick a field goal, I have no problem with the zero blitz. But I do when there's 16 seconds left. And that's where he lost track. There was no necessary.
We lost track?
Yeah, or he lost track of just, you can't do that in that spot. I don't think he means he lost track of, he thought there's 4 minutes left. But again, that's how everyone's going to take it. And that's all that matters. This gets back to what I said about Philly. You say this, if the Niners were the equivalent of, one of the powerhouses in the Northeast, New York, Philly, a lot of people, this won't be that big of a story besides like locally and like the way we talk about it. I think it would be huge.
Yeah. Well, but what I would say is I don't take it as Steve Wilkes thought there was 5 minutes. I take it as he lost track of the situation. That's what he's saying. Now, is he saying we the one thing in another scenario, I might wonder, like, was Kyle paying it? Like, was Kyle off talking to the quarterback right then? Probably not. In the end of the game situation, he probably wasn't, right? In that spot, the head coach is man. There are times where the offensive head coach is off doing.
No, because they're not getting the ball back before half.
But in that spot, I would imagine he's paying attention to the field.
Yes.
Does Kyle?
But you also can't micromanage your defensive coordinator constantly.
You don't have time, right? When you hear the call go in, it's already out there. They're hurrying up. Like, you don't have time to.
I think this is officially now a problem, and this is something to monitor. It goes back to Bosa saying it. And let's face it, once he gets paid that much money, they don't fire players. And I'm not saying to fire him, but if he doesn't like the guy, he will not be the defensive coordinator here long. Simple, right? You agree with that? If Bosa goes after the season and I hate this guy, Steve Wilkes not going to be there.
Yeah, Fred Warner.
And it doesn't feel like Nick's that way. The way Nick said it after the game was just a scheme. That's not really how we play. Now, if I was going to defend Steve Wilkes, I'd be like, hey, Nick, you need to get a little more pressure there, buddy. And all the other 7 of you guys, hey, Javon, we're paying you a lot of money. The guy they replaced you with in Philly is getting a lot more pressure than you currently.
Well, like you said, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a little rocky right now defensively, which it's always been the other way, right? It's been a rocky quarterback situation, offensive injuries. Defense is something you always could rely on. And right now the defense doesn't feel reliable. When they were getting smoked like that on third down constantly, it's one thing Mahomes or Elway or Brady. Cousins looking at that level was a little, I would say, jarring.
It was, but it also
he's a good player, but he owns you.
Well, you said it. I think you said it Monday night. It might be the best quarterback performance you face all year. We'll see. You play good quarterback still in the regular season. It could at the end of the year we could look back at Lamar and we'll see what Burrow does Sunday, and Hurts and Geno and all these games they still got to play and go. That was the best quarterback performance we saw all year. That could do.
If I tell you Lamar. If I tell you Joe Burrow, if I tell you Jalen Hurts, before that game had ever been played Monday night, go 35 of 45 for 378 yards, you're going to go the Niners are going to lose.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to say, how did they only score 22?
And even if I don't even tell you the score or how many touchdowns do you throw, you'd be like,
well, I would assume they scored 43.
Yeah. I would excuse, how many touchdowns? Like 4?
Well, the other thing situationally, when he talks about like we lost track of the time, whatever. Like, it's third down and long. There's 16 seconds left. Don't need to pick it off. Like, Mooney Ward, you're a vet, and I know you said it to me, and you're right. Like, nobody does it. Or maybe Jeff Schwartz said it, because I saw it earlier on Sunday in the Colts game on, like, a third down and long. Deep ball to the end zone. Dude intercepts it on, like, the 3-yard line and starts celebrating. It's like, no, bro. Knock it down. They got a punt from the 40. But same deal. I know nobody does it, but in that spot, knock the ball. You don't need to pick it. Actually, if you intercept it, it's bad.
I've come around. Bad situational football all the way around. I would say it's not bad on the pick because you're probably getting the ball back better than where you would get it on a punt, you would think. I mean,
he's thinking, take it back to the house. I get it.
He already, not even that. He'd already had a pick. He's thinking, pick number 2.
He already ripped away a pick, right?
Yeah, he's thinking whatever his incentive is, it's 8 picks probably for $1 million. Like, shit, I'm about to get my 4th up in this bitch.
Yaffe says, hey, guys, why would Shanahan pass on Jim Schwartz?
I don't think he wants a big ego defensive coordinator.
It would be a pretty pragmatic move to take Jim Schwartz away from the competition, right? If you can't beat him, join him. Yeah. But Jim tends to – he was in Philly. Was he in Philly when you were there?
No.
He
was with Doug.
Jim tends to be around the head coaching job halfway through every season.
Yeah, I think it was halfway through Doug's first year. There was a lot of like, could Schwartz be the next guy?
It's like, whoa, who brought that up? Why? How is that? Why is that a thing? What are we talking about here?
Someone grab Jim's phone and scroll through some text messages.
Who's this? Jim Schwartz is the man burner account.
I just think this is something to keep a very close eye on, though. This is something to keep a very, very close eye on. And in fairness to Steve, there was a lot of pressure with this job. Like, when Vic Fangio took over, no pressure in Miami. Worst defense in the league, and one of them last year. just get us back on
Just
track.
Thankful
right?
to have you. Everyone's happy you're there.
Yeah, thank you, Vic. Thanks for choosing us. Yeah, it's Steve. This is a pressure cooker, baby. Anything less than a Super Bowl championship at the end of the year, it's going to be devastating for this group.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yep.
That's what you're coming into.
Comment for $5. If Darnold starts, he has no excuses anymore. Has the coach, and even with an injured roster, still better than all three phases than his past, by far and away. The best team he's been on. It's not week one, so he's been on this team now for a while, right? He's seen it. Yeah, it's a big moment.
I'd have to break down the kickers he's played with to validate that statement.
All three phases. Graham Gano, who was in Carolina.
Well, Zane Gonzalez says they got him from Carolina, right?
Martin Gramatica, is that who he was with in the Jets?
That's a good question. It feels like Falk was there in the early 2000s. So
yeah,
maybe him. Yeah, but you can never just say confidently all three phases.
That's a good point, John. Yeah,
with the 49ers, I think we'd have to look at some numbers.
Likely, it's not all three phases.
There's a year where he had better special teams.
Yeah, in fact, he probably definitely played on a team that tried a lot of field goals and did a lot of punting. Although you notice who's been really good is Wisnowski's been.
He's good. He's good. I'm pretty sure early in his career, DJ Moore returned because Maria. It's fascinating to watch games with girls, women that like sports, but just football is pretty complicated, right?
Yeah,
if you don't, there's just a lot going on, and just trying to explain. Ray's not the Niners' best return guy. It would immediately be Debo or Ayuk, but you can't put those guys back there, right? Like every team, their best return guy in 2023, back in the day, occasionally like Dion would do it most of his career. But nowadays, like the moment Honey Badger or Deshaun Jackson or whoever plays other positions, it's like, I can't. Odell Beckham, you no longer do that. Like the Niners would be dramatically better on special teams if Debo Samuel was their kickoff returner and Brandon Ayuk was their punt returner, right? They would just be way more of a threat.
Yeah.
Debo would have
Dre
some plays
Greenlaw played on kick cover.
Yeah. So it's just the Niners. Ray's not bad. Like clearly to me, Ray is more than functional as a return man, but he is not the 49ers best. Just like if we went around, like, I don't know who Miami has returning punts, but Tyreek Hill would be the best punt returner in the NFL immediately by a wide margin. You can't risk it.
I like Ray. I think Ray's been like a really good pro for them. I agree. Pro Ray. I would say you never feel like he's about to, like, oh, he might take one here. But most guys don't. It's just.
No, you feel like best case scenario, maybe he breaks a tackle and takes it 20 instead of 7, right?
What round do you. Zachariah Branch is going to be a first rounder in 2.5 years. At this rate.
I would say long way to go because he's pretty small, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But
and I think historically, guys like him, think about Tavon Austin, some of his comps.
So you think
there have been a lot of little guys who have been beyond special in college. Tavon Austin is.
Tavon goes second round.
Remember how good that guy was in West Virginia? Tavon?
Yeah, I do.
I think he went like 10.
Oh, Tavon went 10th overall?
I think.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 12. I don't know. Way higher than you realize. Tavon Austin went 8th.
Wow.
What's the little guy from Washington? Where'd he go?
John Ross. Yeah, 9, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range.
So I think there's a fine balance of the small, skinny guy. For every Deshaun Jackson who weighs 170 pounds, there are a lot of guys that get overvalued and then are disasters. Ted Ginn. I bet Ted Ginn in college, like pound for pound, right?
But what did Ted turn out to be? An elite special teamer.
No, there's nothing. I'm not saying you can't, but if you had a do-over, you take him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, but is this evidence that he's getting drafted? This is evidence that he's getting overdrafted, quote unquote. He's getting drafted in the top 20. Right? He might put together a 40 time by the time he's, who knows?
You're just going to have, when it's all said and done, just a fantastic football life is Ray. Played at Clemson in the peak of their dynasty.
Championship.
And is going to have what? Minimum 8-9 year career? Minimum?
He's
already
6 years in. Played for Steelers, Niners?
Yeah. Drafted by the Bills.
Oh.
played for the Bills for a little bit, and then really started playing for the Steelers and obviously the Niners.
Where did he get drafted?
6th round.
Wow.
He was a productive player.
I know.
For Clemson. 49 catches is like, he came out early.
Did he really? So what was his
like, shit, I'm out.
Was his last year? He was pre Trevor Lawrence. Deshaun's
he would have been. He would have been. What year? What year Trevor Lawrence come in the NFL? Trey Lance's year, so 21. Yeah, so Ray got drafted in 18.
Oh,
so
okay.
What year did Deshaun come in? 18, 17.
Yeah, because they had 1 year between Deshaun and Trevor.
And then that guy came back and he thought he'd have a chance to play, and Dabo said no. Right? I think he only played with Deshaun 1 year. So he would have played with Deshaun his senior year, with that other guy in the middle year, and then he would have played with Trevor probably his true freshman year.
Oh, so he was on the national championship team at Levi's that beat Alabama. That was Trevor's
Ray was
with T. Higgins. T. Higgins and Trevor Lawrence were freshmen.
Would have been like January of 2018, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 18, 19, 20. Sometimes football seasons are weird because the championships always happen the following year.
I know.
Ray got drafted in 18, so that means his last season in
was
college would have been the 17 season, and then it would have been like the 18 January.
Right.
But they went to back-to-back national championships, right?
Yeah.
They lost one and then won one. And then the one you went to at Levi's was their second national championship, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
He had beat Saban, and then they play Alabama again. Is that who that game was again?
Yeah, they picked 6-2 on the first possession. I remember that, and it was all.
Oh yeah.
Did you catch this? Have you seen this story? Somebody on the stream. I would say most of the names on the stream are somehow related to the word dick. Anyway, young Dick Dong says, "Is Purdy's elbow fully healthy?" Did you catch the thing that Aikman said during the game?
No.
That Brock told him that he doesn't have full strength in his arm back yet, basically. Cohen asked Kyle about it today, and Kyle's like, he said, has Brock talked to you about that? And Kyle said, no.
Kyle looked edgy in the clips.
Kyle did look edgy, he loosened up a couple times. But I mean, I don't, not 100%. Maybe that's the way Aikman put it. Thank you, John, on the stream. If I said Kyle told Aikman, it was Brock that Aikman told him that. But I watch him. I think he looks fine. I also think, and people have talked about this. I know you've, I'm sure, seen it firsthand. That when you have that surgery, or any surgery really, you just can't be 100% 8 months later. It just takes time. But there's a difference between not 100% and can't make the throws I want to make. So whether he's 100% or not, let's say he's not, I don't watch him and think he can't make the throws that he wants to make. Although he did not make 2 throws that he wanted to make the other day, right? The interception at the end. The other throw he tried to make that he could not physically make was
that's
the
a hard throw,
Ayuk in the dirt.
That's a really difficult. To me, that's a difficult throw for him, just with his physical character.
Yeah, I'm just saying you gave him Derek Carr's arm. That's a completion, right?
Yeah,
or quarterback, pick another quarterback
because he just needed really a couple extra feet, right?
Yeah, like one more foot would have got it done. The question is, will he make that throw in 2024? I don't know.
I don't think that's really his MO.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. One thing you watch in some of that Seahawks game, you're like, Seahawks, Bengals, it's like, God, some of these teams just hit sideline deep balls easily. Bucket shots, like bam, defender on Tyler Lockett's back, bucket ball. And the Niners don't
Geno has a better arm than Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Geno has a good arm.
He's one of the, I would say he's one of the, I think statistically he's one of the better deep ball throwers in the league. Now
I would say that's like his number one attribute as a passer, throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Touch.
All right.
And just picking you apart. It's not really his game.
Anything to add?
Buckle up,
Buckle up.
Steve Wilkes.
Big game, John. This is woo.
Yeah, got a lot more interesting.
If the next Niners
Season went from like undefeated to all of a sudden being 5-3
should've
going into the bye.
It's like watching a M. Night Shyamalan movie. You just know like something weird's about to happen. It's every Niners season. Shyamalan? I never know.
Shyamalan.
Let's go with that. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you back here on Thursday. Thanks for hanging, everybody. Later.
Peace.